Achieving the ideal roast beef may seem difficult, but it is actually very simple, quick and easy, and in this video I show you the step-by-step technique of how to prepare a perfect roast beef, at the ideal point, brown on the outside and pink inside. Watch the video until the end and follow the step-by-step of this technique. Roast beef is a beef dish, typical of Sunday lunch in the United Kingdom. In Europe, the most used cut for roast beef is the tenderloin roast. But other cuts are also used like the eye of round roast, ribeye roast, prime rib roast, sirloin tip center steak and outside flat. The first step is to prepare the meat before roasting. For this I use coarse salt and a mix of spices ground in the blender, which are black pepper, allspice, mustard seed and black cumin. I spread this mixture all over the piece, and I massage it so that this mixture sticks well to the meat. A nice and juicy piece of roast beef, fresh out of the oven, is an excellent main dish, which can be served with different side dishes, such as potatoes, rice or assorted salads. But roast beef is also widely used in the preparation of sandwiches, salads and various cold dishes. If you prefer, you can season the meat with just the salt. In this case, it is recommended to use 1% of the weight of the meat in salt. After this step, it is important to let the roast beef rest with the seasoning for at least 24 hours. Then I wrap the meat in plastic and let it rest in the fridge overnight to absorb the seasonings well. In the next step, I prepare a bed flavored with vegetables in the roasting pan to place the piece of meat. Here I used leeks, onions, carrots and celery, cut into very small pieces, and added some herbs, which are thyme, rosemary and basil. Before putting the meat in the oven, I preheat the oven to 250 degrees Celsius, and while the oven is heating up I sear the meat in a frying pan with hot oil. Roast beef is cooked in 2 stages, on the stove and in the oven, a method known as braising, which is an old French technique, that consists of using 2 types of heat to cook the same piece of meat, dry heat and moist heat. Turn all sides well so that all sides are brown. After searing the meat I put it in the oven, and let it cook for 15 minutes. Then I take it out of the oven and add butter and rosemary on top of the piece. Add a little olive oil, rice vinegar and balsamic vinegar to the vegetables. And lower the oven temperature to 150 degrees. After 5 minutes I put the meat back in the oven at 150 degrees for another 15 minutes. You can check the roast beef by touching the piece. It is still a little soft to the touch, and in the end it is tender and tasty. After taking the roast beef out of the oven, let it rest for about 10 minutes for the juices to return to the inside of the meat. Now just slice the piece. The ideal is to use a very sharp knife. Mine wasn't very sharp, but even so you can see how the meat was tender, pink inside and brown on the edges and very juicy. This is the sweet spot for the perfect roast beef. Roast beef is only real roast beef when the meat is medium rare to medium, pink on the inside and brown on the outside, or caramelized on the outside. So the roast beef passing through the oven has to be quick, it's not for real roasting. If you overcook the meat, it will strip it of all its juices and flavor. If you are going to serve the roast beef cold, the ideal thing is to leave it in the freezer, after roasting, so that the meat freezes and is very firm, ready to be sliced into very thin pieces. The result of this recipe is a tender and very tasty meat, which can be served warm, as a main dish, or cold, as in sandwiches and salads. Then I use the vegetables used to cook the roast beef as a side dish. They are full of flavor. Then I use some of it to season the rice. In the rest of the vegetables, I add water and balsamic vinegar and let it reduce a little. If you like this video, leave a like and check out the meats playlist on my channel, with more recipes and techniques for preparing different cuts of meat.